Hello wonderful people of the internet, and welcome back to Hysteria Gaming HD. It's Tommy here, and I'm bringing you another episode of Let's Chat in which I talk about things gaming related that are playing on my mind a lot in the gaming industry, and just have a kind of chilled out commentary about them. Today I wanted to talk about hackers, and when I say hackers I do not mean 12-year-olds trying to take the FBI website offline, or DDoSers who like to destroy charity streams, because I don't really have any interest in them, nor do I want to give them much more attention. What I do want to discuss is hackers in games, and these are people who are nothing new. They've been affecting gaming for a long time, but I've been encountering them quite a lot recently with my resurgence in Battlefield Bad Company 2 on PC, and so I wanted to discuss a bit behind the psyche of them and how they're sort of viewed by the gaming community and how the gaming industry as a whole deals with them. Before we kind of delve into the nitty-gritty that is the sort of labyrinth of my thoughts on this issue, I will kind of say that there are many people who will point out that the worst thing you can do to a hacker is to actually give them the exposure that I'm giving them now, because that kind of feeds the trolls and it's kind of what they want, a bit of infamy, a bit of exposure or whatever. I will counteract that though and say that hackers are nothing new in games. They're not original. They've been around for a long time. And they're still rife. Not making videos on them, not giving them exposure has done nothing to combat the problem. One quick search on YouTube, you'll find multiple people who just post videos of them hacking, and it's like so commonplace now. It would take me a 5-minute search on Google to find a hack that will bypass the latest third-party anti-hack scripts, and that is a bit of a worry to me. And so screw it. I know these people do want exposure. Well, here you go, guys. If you are a hacker and you're watching this, well, congratulations. You get me to bitch and moan for 5 minutes and give you your 5 minutes of infamy. Anyway, as I say, these people have been around for a while. Certain games in the past, like Crysis 2, were particularly renowned for being flooded with hackers and were one of the reasons attributed to the game dying very quickly, and also Crysis 3 being so poorly received, I believe, online, because there were so many people worried that the same thing would happen there. I don't believe Crytek did a huge amount to combat it, and that was something they said they were going to actively try and do when Crysis 3 came out, but it was a bit of a too little too late, lads, and thanks but no thanks from the community, and that's why the game died after a couple of months. I think one of the steps we need to take as a community though on PC to kind of start the ball rolling on hacking is to curb our reliance on crying hacks, as I like to call it, when you're simply being outplayed. Now, unfortunately, it seems to be something that is very commonplace on PC, and it's almost as bad as hacking if you ask me. Every FPS game I think I've ever played with a chat system, I've been able to view people calling each other hackers because they've been outplayed. Anyone who has any decent experience in an FPS game will know instantly when the guy they're playing versus is a hacker. Some people do have quite passive hacks, and that makes it a lot harder to recognize, but anyone who has a hack who's playing aggressively, you will know immediately that they are using it. And so just chill, guys. It will become very apparent to you when you are playing versus a genuine hacker, and when you're simply just maybe not bringing your A game and you're not playing well enough, or maybe the guy you're playing is playing very well. Now, there was an instance last week on a server which ironically I'm now an admin of. I had 3 or 4 guys in the server telling the admin, it was one of the only servers I'm aware of in Battlefield Bad Company 2 which still has very active admins, and they were trying to get them to kick me because I was hacking, and I was like, seriously guys, I've got like a 2 KD, I'm not doing particularly well, I've died 30 times this round, are you going to call me a hacker? But the admin, obviously, he had to check my stats, my kind of shot to headshot ratio and all this sort of stuff, and they were confident enough to realize that people were just crying hacks. And I think it's very counterproductive, because if you are over reliant on crying hacks against just people who are playing well, or you happen to be playing poorly and you're just going to over rely and just call everyone a hacker that kills you, it makes it very hard for admins, and it makes it very tedious for admins to differentiate between a genuine hacker and someone who is just playing well. And so just be a bit more responsible with that. I do realize that FPS games can be a bit kind of, you know, hoo-ah and you can't beat me, John Rambo, and all that sort of stuff. But for a prime example, I had a guy the other day who killed me from a bush. Okay, I went back to the same bush, I found him in the same bush, and I defibbed him in it. He then went off in an absolute rant in the chat, calling me a hacker, said I had a player locator hack, a wall hack, and all this sort of stuff. And I was just trying to point out to him, dude, there is a kill cam system in this game. I can see where you are. What is wrong with you, man? But when it comes to genuine hackers and people who are legitimately prepared to spend actual money on third-party software that aims for them, that I find that hilarious. Honestly, I mean, GG kids. You're obviously spending your mum's hard-earned pocket money well, and so really proud of you. But yeah, the psyche behind it, the mentality of a hacker is something that I would love to understand, and if you have a better understanding of this, then please let me know. I mean, the only thing I can see them getting out of it is just being able to wallow in hatred of the server, and it's not just the people they're killing, it's the teammates alike, constantly berating them, telling them to just leave because they've ruined the game. And I presume, you know, they get their little bit of infamy, they get everyone in the chat talking about them because I presume no one in real life talks about them. And so, you know, this kind of fills a void in their life where they're very unimportant. That's the only thing I can assume. I don't try and get too psychological in the chat. I tend to just point out they're in line for a long, sexless future. Anyways, there's not much point in me just sitting here ranting for 20 minutes about the lack of life that these people have using aimbots, but you know, you only have to go to a forum and Google why do people use hacks in games and you get some pretty amusing answers. The one I'm putting on here, you might have to excuse his lack of English understanding, but you can get the gist of it, and I think I agree with point 10. It's definitely about the penis size. Anyway, what can we do about it? Unfortunately, not a lot, I'm afraid to say, guys. When it comes to newer games like Battlefield 4, I was actually very surprised how high the amount of hackers were to start off with in the opening few months. But as EA and as DICE and Punkbuster got a grip on it and Metaban started rolling out, they seem to have got it, put a lid on it, and kind of, it's not eradicated, but it's much rarer to find hackers in the newer titles now. When it comes to older games like Crysis, or like you see here with Battlefield Bad Company 2, obviously development studios can't support games forever, and I understand that. The problem with this, however, is that the moment developers stop supporting games, then it's only a matter of time before the people who provide the anti-cheat software do too. And in the case of Bad Company 2, that's Punkbuster, and so all the people who develop hacks need to do is take the latest model of Punkbuster and work out what gets through it and what doesn't. And so pretty much it's inevitable. The moment a game stops being supported by the anti-cheat system and that stops getting updated, it's only a matter of time before hackers find a workaround, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. So the only real suggestion I can have, and it's something that's pretty alien to me, I don't really understand why this doesn't exist in all servers. Perhaps it costs extra money to implement for when you rent a server. I don't really understand the ins and outs of it because I've never tried to rent one. But in my mind, all servers should come with a vote kick. Why do they not come with a vote kick? If that was the case, hacking would be eradicated in games. They could come into games, they could be in there for 2 minutes and they get vote kicked, because people on their own team don't even want them in there, let alone the people they're playing against. It would be so quick to get rid of them. But for whatever reason that doesn't exist, so my current methodology of trying to avoid these people is playing on servers with active admins. Obviously the older the game you play, the harder that is becoming. But in the case of Bad Company 2, as I mentioned earlier, I've started being part admin on a server. I've got basic rights at the moment, but I'm kind of policing people who are complaining about hacks or whatever and just trying to help them out and whatever. I've kicked a known hacker from our server a few times, and you can't really put a value on that. Having active admins in a server is extremely helpful, so definitely look out for servers with admins who are still active. There are a few on Battlefield Bad Company 2 really, but yeah, it's definitely something you should look out for. Anyway guys, I think I've chatted a little bit too much for Let's Chat today, so let's close this up. I hope you've enjoyed the video. What do you do with hackers? What are your thoughts on them? Do you play with hackers? Do you just tend to leave servers if there's a hacker involved? Do you report them in a certain place? What do you do about hackers? I would love to hear from anyone, and especially those of you who, if any of you use hacks and are watching this, I really hope you're not subscribed to me, but if you are, what are your reasonings behind what you do? Just for the lols? Because that's what gets kicks for 12-year-olds? Or I don't know. I'd especially like to hear from people who have used hacks in the past and for reasons as to why and what enjoyment they actually receive from them, but also from the rest of us guys who despise the very sight of them. I'd like to know how you deal with it. Do you just leave servers or whatever? It would be interesting to know. Anyway guys, as always, I hope you've enjoyed the video and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take it easy.